This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Everyone, welcome to episode 287 of the CineSnob Podcast. I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafana.
Cody, I just noticed the Super 8 shirt. So you're wearing your ironic hat.
Yes,
and your sincere T-shirt.
Yeah, I think I told you the story behind this shirt, right?
I don't remember.
So I was there was like a PR thing when Super 8 came out on Blu-ray, where they were doing in different cities like a scavenger hunt to get a Super 8 prize package, and I was a big fan of that movie, and so I figured out where the stuff would be, and I went to the place, and I was the first person there, and so I got this shirt. I got an autographed Blu-ray signed by J.J. Abrams.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And then I posted a picture on Twitter of me like holding everything up, and I captioned it something like, "I'm more excited about this than I look," because I looked, whatever. It was self-deprecating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then like Kiko got an email after that from like a PR rep who was like mad that I was like they thought I was slamming the movie, and
really,
and they knew it was me because like they were familiar with me. So I had to explain like, hey, I'm like insulting myself. What are you upset about here?
That's
weird.
I
don't even think they were mad that like I was like that I won it. They were just like, well, it's not favorable to the movie. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's a very slippery slope for the PR people to fall down when it comes to this like criticism, and then like, why are you talking bad about the movie? We've encountered that. I know you've encountered that specifically somewhere. I won't speak the name of it, but
which that thing has been at this point smoothed over. But like
right.
when it first happened, it was wild.
Yes, especially for the scale at which it was, of the thing that it was crazy. It reminds me of I don't remember what had happened. It was after the South by Southwest, I guess 2017, 2018 maybe, when they rebooted Roseanne.
Oh yeah.
They had a big activation here.
That's right.
It was Michael Fishman, Lacey Goranson, and I can't remember her name. She plays one of the characters' daughters, one of Darlene's daughters. She was on Shameless. I can't remember the actress's name. Emma Kelly, I think, is it? Or Emma something. Anyway, they had a big activation. I went, and my wife was a huge Roseanne fan, and she was living in San Antonio at the time and came up to visit. And I became friendly with Michael Fishman at the event. He was a great guy, and he helped me get her in to the trivia later, and like gave us little side tips on winning. So I won a blanket that was like the famous blanket. I don't know if you're a fan of Roseanne at all, but they have like that crocheted blanket that sits on the couch. Very 70s style. Anyway, it was like a replica fleece of that, and I threw it on my couch, and I took a picture, put it on Instagram, and like the official Roseanne account like found it, and because I tagged it, and they were like, "Hey, we want to thanks for publishing this. We want to send you some free swag." I was like, "Awesome." Then like 3 days later is when Roseanne implodes and says the racist shit on Twitter. And it just like sunk that immediately. I was like, oh man, I wanted that free shit. Like, there's no way ABC was going to send that out now. But
yeah, did you get replacement the Connors goods and swag?
No, I didn't.
They had to rebrand. They had to eliminate their marketing budget to.
It's weird because the Roseanne account still exists, and I don't know if you know this, but like when they do these shows like this, like catalog shows, essentially, they like the reboot of Roseanne technically is the 11th season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like syndication packages have like the new season in there too. So it like ends, you know, like the old series finale, and then it starts up with these new episodes. So if you watch it on like Cozy TV or some shit, there's all of a sudden a brand new episode airs, and the Connors is a completely different thing. So it's not part of that.
I see. Okay.
Had to do that. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, it was swag dead in the water. But anyway, I wanted to talk about something real quick before we get on to reviews.
Yeah.
Cody, we talked a little bit before, but were you familiar with the Disney Movie Club?
Vaguely, in my way of knowing about it is, of course, a very classic me thing, which is that I remember seeing like headlines on Blu-ray.com that that the Mighty Ducks franchise was coming out on Blu-ray for the first time, but it was exclusive to the Disney Movie Club, which is when I found out about the sort of like exclusive to members only products that they were doing, but that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, so I was a member for a couple years, a few years ago, and it's the same thing. Like it's your opportunity to get a lot of library titles that Disney had put out that weren't really available anywhere else. Not just like Blu-ray stuff, not just Blu-ray exclusives, but the idea that there was some stuff that was never anywhere other than a VHS that was released 30 years ago. Specifically, one I remember that drew my interest was the DuckTales movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. It was a Disney Movie Club exclusive, so that's what drew me in, and I had bought some other stuff there along the way, like Return to Oz Blu-ray was an exclusive. There was some old shows, old like weird 1 hour special things that I remember my sister and I watching when we were very young kids that I would buy. I was like, Dad, can I borrow the car? And Sammy the Way Out Seal and things like that have no, like, were never broadcast anywhere. And I think they might live on Disney Plus now. This was like the pre-Disney Plus days. Well, the news came out the other day, earlier this week, that Disney is shutting down the Disney Movie Club, which they've already done in Canada and Australia. But the biggest thing I think to come out of this is that they are Disney will no longer produce physical media. Through a deal, Sony will be producing the DVDs, or DVDs and Blu-rays. So I'm curious what this means for the fate of anything Disney related on DVD or Blu-ray or home media.
This is all Disney home, not just the stuff that was exclusive on Disney Movie Club.
Correct. Yeah. So the Disney Movie Club shut down the access to these, these kind of more offbeat titles, or these things that are, things like The Journey of Natty Gann and, these kind of live action Disney movies that were lost along the way, or, like the original Incredible Journey, not Homeward Bound. And, well, I don't know. When was the last time you bought a Disney DVD? And I guess that would mean Star Wars, Marvel.
Oh boy. I think probably Toy Story, the Toy Story collection for 1, 2, and 3. I don't have 4, but that was probably the last time I actually purchased a Disney Blu-ray.
Yeah, I think
or maybe I guess technically one of the like Spider-Man Homecoming maybe on 4K. Yeah. Does that count?
I think it's a Sony movie technically. So, well, I guess now it's all going to be the same shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how big of a collection you have. We have a pretty extensive DVD collection that is not everything that I've ever had, but it is pretty deep. I'm starting to get in my mind that I need to hold on to these things.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you feel the same way. I know that over the years you've been pretty bought into streaming, as have I. But did you retain physical media, like an extensive collection, or no?
Yeah, I've retained it. I just haven't added much to it in the last few years. Like I was a pretty avid Blu-ray collector up until maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe longer, when I just kind of like stopped buying stuff. And I think it's because it was so readily available in other avenues. And I think also like digital copies of movies became so good that like, you can find your way towards, getting some digital copies of movies for pretty cheap, or even just like buying them on iTunes or whatever, or Apple Movies, whatever it's called, Apple TV now, and have it across platforms and access it from any devices and have it be in the cloud and stuff like that. So, and they've gotten to be like really, really high quality. So for me, I don't really have time anymore these days to like go through the special features and that kind of stuff. Whereas like when I was younger, I did. And so I'm less interested in building out my collection unless it's something that I know I want like the absolute highest quality on, and then I'll get like a 4K Blu-ray. But like a standard Blu-ray, like I haven't messed with in a long time.
Are you worried about the stuff disappearing?
Well, not really, because I feel like the stuff that seems to be disappearing is the straight to streaming stuff, and the stuff that is like available for purchase, I don't know, has like really truly disappeared. So I feel like in some capacity that stuff remains pretty safe. But
like for example, Max took away Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Right.
It's still streaming, I think, on adultswim.com, but I don't know this particularly factually, but I don't believe that there are DVDs of this. I have all the DVDs of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but I don't believe everything is on those DVDs because of the rights issues.
Yeah.
So the idea that, here again, we all bought into this idea of being, that Max was going to be a repository for everything Warner Brothers ever.
Yeah.
The same with Disney. And that's proven to be, I guess, not financially viable for them. I don't know exactly what the mathematics are behind it. But the idea that this stuff can maybe not disappear forever, but disappear significantly.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say was like, it's just a tough, complicated situation to be in, because like the only reason why this whole thing is like upsetting is because we got access to it and then it was taken away. And like prior to Max, your only way to get Space Ghost Coast to Coast was to have like the DVDs and stuff. And so like it's just a really interesting thing to look at, which is like, well, it's pissing us off because we had it and now they're taking it away from us. But like if you rewind like 6 or 7 years ago or whatever, we're just in the same exact spot as we were.
Sure, but I mean, it's tradition. We've traditionally been in like a growth model for home media for since VHS started, and the idea that it can be dialed back is a new one for the last fucking 40 years. And I mean, even stuff would go out of print or whatever, but it would still exist. In some form or fashion, you could find it. Again, Dogma is another example.
Yeah.
It's stuck in a rights battle that it's not worth the money to buy the rights away. And it exists. Like you can buy the DVD if you want, pretty readily available. The DVD is pretty readily available used, but the Blu-ray is really hard to find. I just don't know that that this is one of the things that this is not the future that we signed up for. And
sure. And it's just so, because like the big mark about like streaming has been like, well, you need physical copies because they're going to take it away from you, and now they're taking away physical copies of stuff too, potentially. And now it's like,
right.
So what's the answer here? Like, what's the solution?
I mean, and there doesn't appear to be a good one.
Yeah.
There's still going to be boutique retailers for DVDs and Blu-rays, I assume. I bought my first like Vinegar Syndrome stuff the other day.
Yeah.
Whenever that might arrive. And
I guess the thing that we're also tap dancing around is like, if you want it, you can find it. Like all of this stuff is available through other means should you like truly want it.
Sure, but the idea you shouldn't have to be. I mean, there should be,
right?
In theory, there should be a way to get it.
Yes.
But and then that's slowly going away forever, I guess. But all right. Anything else before we move on? I just wanted to kind of vent a little bit about that.
No, I think, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started on reviews.
Here are this week's reviews.
First up, we have Stopmotion.
What's all that stuff?
It's called stop motion animation.
What do you think? It's a bit boring.
It's not finished. It's not boring.
Make a new one.
A new one.
Yeah. I know a better story. You want to hear it? There's a girl. She's scared. There's someone coming.
Who's coming?
The man no one wants to meet.
The Ashman.
You could bring it to life.
What does the Ashman do?
Don't be scared.
Whatever it is you think you saw back there, it's not real.
I don't want to make this film anymore.
This is a horror film, I believe, on Shudder, correct?
It will be on Shudder eventually.
Will be on Shudder.
Yeah, theatrical right now.
And did you see this at Fantastic Fest?
I didn't get to see it there, but it did world premiere there.
Okay. Well, tell us about Stop Motion, Cody, and what you thought of it.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the plot is like pretty simple, which is that it follows a woman who is a stop motion animator working for her mother, who is like, I guess, a well-known director, and she's very like demanding and abusive towards her daughter in this process, and doesn't let her do her own work or make her own movies. And then anyway, the mother ends up having a stroke and goes into the hospital. And while she's in the hospital, our main character starts to, try to cope with that while also developing her own film with the help of a little girl that lives in the building that she's in. And then essentially everything kind of unravels from there as she becomes like haunted by the film, haunted by some of that stuff becoming a little bit more realistic, haunted by the girl, haunted by the sort of relationship she has with her mother, and it just kind of goes from there. And I think I'll start with what I think really does work towards its advantage, which is, I think from a technical aspect, the movie's really impressive on a number of different levels. I think that it's it features a fair amount of stop motion animation, both in seeing like the clips of the movies that are being made within the film, and then also like later on where they do kind of like a stop motion animation, like live action hybrid shots and stuff like that. And I think the stop motion stuff is really interesting. I think it's kind of like nightmare fuel type stuff where it's like really unsettling and weird and gross.
I mean, I don't know if you're familiar. I mean, it looks like Tool videos from the 90s.
It does. Yeah.
The sober video particularly. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. So like the characters are like made out of like mortician's wax and raw meat and stuff like that. And I think it's really effective in like being, super unsettling. The other thing I think is really good is the sound design in the movie, where it's just a very the movie's very visceral in that sense, where not only are you getting like good Foley work or whatever, but the sounds of the textures of what they're working with, or like when they're using the meat or when they're using the wax or whatever. It's just really well done, kind of cranked up sound. I think it does lean into the jump scare stuff a little bit too many times with that sound as well, but I think like the sound design is really well done. I think where the movie starts to fall apart a little bit is that it is very much something that I think kind of like gets by on like vibes more so than any kind of narrative push, where like the movie is like really unsettling and then eventually sort of morphs into, kind of like gross out body horror type stuff, which I think again is effective. There's some great practical effects with like skin that happen within the movie, and it's legit like kind of like stomach churning, unsettling. But when it really goes hard at that, it kind of loses any kind of again, like storytelling resonance, I think. And there's definitely some stuff here that about like, trauma or generational trauma, but I think that like you're kind of meeting the director more than halfway with some of that stuff, because I think that like you can connect the dots if you want, but it's not there enough to really hit, I don't think. And like it just becomes sort of like this sort of like descent into madness kind of thing that, while great to look at, while effectively weird and gross and gory, by the third act, when it gets like when it goes real hard, I sort of like wish that there was something more of substance there to kind of make it memorable. So for me, from a technical standpoint, impressive. From a storytelling standpoint, not so much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that really the visuals are the only reason to come to this, because I think the story is pretty kind of boilerplate almost. I think there's a certain element in this movie that as soon as it appears, you've figured it out.
Yes,
like it's not. There's nothing. There's no mystery to it. I do think that like you said, the body horror stuff is really well done to a point. There's a scene, particularly in a shower, that I thought was really effectively done with practical effects. The stop motion stuff is, I mentioned the Tool video, but it did immediately remind me of that as soon as I started watching. But it's more kind of off-putting for the sake of being off-putting, I think, more so than any narrative choices that are made. And by the end of it, I don't really feel like it, were we looking at an American Psycho situation, or were we looking at something kind of face value? And I don't think the movie particularly addresses that well. And I don't know that it, like you said, you're having to meet the director more than halfway on some of these things to kind of sell what's happening. Grisly as shit, like really disturbing as shit. Lots of raw meat, lots of kind of gross things happening with dead animals and things. I just don't know that it ever really feels like it's cohesive enough to get from where we start the film to where we end the film. Like I don't quite understand how we need to be. Yeah,
it's a leap. Yeah, and I think it's no fault of like any of like the performances either, which I think are like pretty good across the board. But again, like the narrative just doesn't quite fully get you there, and I kind of again I wonder what a movie like this would look like as a short or something like that. Something that like you didn't have to try to extend into something longer when you don't really have a lot of meat on the bone.
I mean, it's and I'm not trying to disparage it.
And also this director, I think this is his feature debut, but he's made short films since like the 90s. So
yeah. So it's like it's definitely a real great demo reel for stop motion. For this guy's stop motion work. I wonder, do you know what he's worked on in anything like music video wise? Or
so no, I do know
this up.
Yeah, so he's been nominated for like a BAFTA. He's a British director, so he's been nominated for a BAFTA for short film. He was in the ABCs of Death. He made a short film for that.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if he's.
I'm looking at his. Yeah, it's maybe not music videos, but it's definitely like music video style. Like I said, it's a Tool video. Just, yeah. So he's done like 48-hour film project stuff. Robert Morgan is his name. Anyway, technically impressive. I think there's some really good stuff there. Just the writing, the script is really lacking, and it's like an hour and a half, and it feels a little like sludgy and slow a lot of times. Yeah. Anyway, what's your grade for stop motion, Cody?
So I am going to give it a C plus. I'm not going to recommend it, but I don't think that it's all that far off. Because it's certainly watchable, and I think that like when it gets kind of like surrealist and weird, it doesn't like go to the point where it becomes like avant-garde shit. Like I think it remains like relatively like clear. And I think it only really escalates into the sort of narrative uncertainty in that sort of final act, which I think it kind of delivers on the gore there to make up for. So anyway, I just think that there's a lot of impressive visual and audio stuff here that like may like the technical aspects may bump it up, you know, from like a C to a C plus. But yeah, I'm going with a C plus.
Yeah, C plus for me too. I'm going to echo you. The technical stuff sells it. Story stuff doesn't. I'd like to see, you know, if this had a better story, I think it could be something really effective. But as it stands right now, it's just sort of something that looks cool and gross.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to our last movie, Drive Away Dolls.
We don't yet know exactly where they are, but we do know who they are. We've got a picture of one of the girls. We're all set to...
Who they are. I want the package.
No, we will find and deliver the package. Under control.
I am unhappy.
I understand that you're unhappy, sir.
Damn right I am.
I've got my 2 best men on the... All right. Get some coffee. You two are going to be driving all night.
I didn't get a chance to see this movie, but you did, Cody. So tell us about Drive Away Dolls.
Sure. So, you know, the headline of the movie, I think, is that it is directed by Ethan Coen, and this is, I believe, just the second movie since the Coen brothers split. I think Tragedy of Macbeth was Joel's movie that was the first one, and then this is Ethan's first solo movie, which he co-wrote. And so I was kind of interested to see, you know, I mean, I love the Coen brothers and, you know, some of my favorite directors, and you know, with the partnership split, kind of wondering again what happens when they are on their own. You know, how do they need each other? Are they able to get it done solo? And you know, based off of this, I think maybe they need the partnership back. So this is a movie that takes place in 1999, and it follows 2 characters played by Margaret Qualley and Geraldine Viswanathan, and they are like lesbian friends who, you know, one of them is going through a breakup, the other one is like her best friend, and they decide to go on a road trip to Florida. They live in Philadelphia, and so they're going to Tallahassee, and so they end up taking a car, like a one-way car ride, like a drive-away car service down to Florida. And what happens is they end up taking a car that was supposed to go to someone else, and the car contains like valuable things in it. And so basically they are on a road trip, and then they're being chased by people who are trying to retrieve whatever's they're traveling with. And
a very Coen brothers premise, I would say.
For sure, yeah. And then shenanigans ensue from there. And I just I don't know what went wrong here. I mean, I think it feels like every decision that's made is a bad one. So like one thing is, you know, you see a like a trailer that features like Pedro Pascal and Matt Damon, and of course each of them is in like one scene in the movie, so they're barely in it. You know, Margaret Qualley, who I really like as an actress, is doing like this really over the top Southern accent in it that's distracting and unpalatable. The sort of like, it's not wacky enough to be like a madcap kind of silly thing, and then also it's like 88 minutes or something like that, and it's just like it just goes nowhere. So it's unfunny. I think almost like barely any of the jokes land, and then the whole thing is like based on this sort of like, well, why are these people chasing down whatever item is in the trunk of this car? And the reveal is like so underwhelming, and I can't quite tell if like I'll explain it to you off podcast, but
Okay.
but like the item is something where I don't know if the point is like it's set in 1999, so it's like a satire on like, oh, this would have been shocking in 1999, but it's not shocking now, or if it's just like an underwhelming, like it doesn't make sense why this would even be a problem type thing. Like that's how it felt to me. It's like, well, why is everything over this? Like, and it's supposed to be a big reveal and it doesn't hit at all. So I kind of wonder if it's a satire, but again, it's not sharp or biting enough to register that way. So it's just kind of all around just sort of DOA, and I think like surprisingly bad. Like compared or considering the idea that it's Ethan Coen writing and directing a movie, it's got a really good cast. Like even in small parts, every person on screen is like a really great actor. It just does not work at all for me.
Yeah, it's weird because it always feels like that when it always feels strange to when you have these directors that you follow, these filmmakers that you follow, and they have this thing that feels like it should be like right in their wheelhouse, and then it just sort of peters out, and you have to wonder like, well, have they run out of gas? You know, like someone like Robert Zemeckis, I think, has run out of gas. Made some legendary films, you know, in the 80s and 90s. Still tries to make the same stuff, but just can't do it. You know, like Kevin Smith. I mean, the weed may have taken over that one, but like he's nowhere near as sharp as he used to be. And you know, Ethan Coen, while obviously missing his brother, like, were they both done? Like, are they both? What was the last Coen brothers movie together?
Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Okay, I never saw that one. I didn't see that one or Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar, I did not like at all. I thought it was pretty bad. But then, you know, Inside Llewyn Davis was before that, which is one of my favorites of the Coens. So, you know, that's the thing is like, even, you know, like Ballad of Buster Scruggs had really great stuff in it. And it was still there as of that. Like, I don't think they had entirely lost their fastball, but like, you know, when you break up a creative partnership like that, it's sort of like, who knows what's going to happen, you know? Right. And I think the Safdie brothers just split as well creatively. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like, and you know, some of them, like some people like never had it either, like, or had it and then totally lost it. Like the Wachowskis, I think, had The Matrix. And then, I mean, there's people, defenders of like Speed Racer and Cloud Atlas, but
yeah,
it's just a fascinating thing to happen. Like, how do you get so like this creative well just runs dry? And anyway, what's your grade for Drive Away Dolls, Cody?
I'm gonna give it like, gosh, a D+.
Ooh.
Maybe like I found it to be like unbearable. In something that does not work at all. You know, maybe C-, but you know,
wow,
yeah, it's somewhere in that range for sure.
Bummer.
Yeah, it was a big bummer.
Well, that's going to do it for this week. Next week, Cody, is it Dune 2 weekend?
It is. It's Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2. Yes.
We also have Spaceman, the
Adam
Sandler Netflix movie is out next week. So.
Oh yeah. You know, I hadn't. I was realizing that I hadn't actually finished the first Dune. Because it came out during the pandemic and we didn't cover it for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, did I watch it? I couldn't remember at all. So I went to Max and it's like 15 minutes in and I had stopped for whatever reason. So I started.
Yeah.
But have you noticed, we'll go back to kind of trashing Max. It is one of the quietest movies, the quietest loud movies. I had to turn the volume up to like, I don't know, you know, every TV volume is different. I typically have it set at 18. I had to turn it up to 75 to hear it. And I'm not sure it's like if it's the Villeneuve, is that how you say it? I don't know how you say it. Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. I'm not sure if it's like his style, like Christopher Nolan, that you can't really understand this stuff, or it's just like the terrible specs on Max. I don't know what the fuck happened, but it was daunting to listen to because it was
Yeah. I feel
so
like
quiet.
that's a Max problem. I don't know. I'm going to rewatch Dune this week. I don't remember too much of it. I remember thinking it was pretty good. Not amazing, but like pretty good.
I enjoyed it. It is one of those movies that I was like when you get to, you're like, there's like 30 minutes left and this is not anywhere close to wrapping up. And then you realize, oh shit, it's literally a part one.
Yeah.
Which was, that's not my favorite thing in the world.
Right.
But I can live with it from time to time. At least it was, I mean, it was really like the style. I think it looks great. Like the production design is really awesome, but yeah, so we got those two. All right, if you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. Find us on Twitter @cinesnob, Facebook cinesnobnet, youtube.com/cinesnob. Anything else, Cody, before we wrap it up?
No, just South by Southwest quickly approaching. I've officially started watching screeners. For whatever reason, and thank you to the PR people, screeners for South by Southwest are much easier to get than screeners at other festivals. I don't know why, but I've gotten a yes on everything I've asked for so far. So, thank you.
Yeah, some cool premieres there too. I saw Civil War was just announced this week. Opening night is The Fall Guy.
Yeah, The Fall Guy is premiering. Roadhouse is premiering there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed to not be going this year, but it's a slog, as you know. But
it is, yeah, it is.
All right. On that note, I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Viavagna.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit cinesnob.net. See you next week.